Hi, in this video we will go through the problem limitation. I will start by explaining what to do and the reasoning why a problem limitation is important. And then I will show you some examples of limitations that you can use in your project. Okay, so for the theory, I would always make my problem limitation either as a bullet point list or with very clear subsections. So you divide them into each limitation standing on its own. Your limitations, they address the potential weaknesses of your work. And I will give some examples later. But the reason why you want to be upfront about this is that being upfront with your limitations actually strengthens your work, because you are by yourself identifying the problems before your supervisor or censor find them. So problem limitation is for what I call artificial limitations that you put on your project. It's something that in an ideal world you would not limit, but for one reason or another you felt like you had to limit it. Please make sure that the limitations you write here do not overlap with the specification of requirements that's coming in the next video, where you have the won't have section. So the won't have and project limitations are two different things. So there are different types of limitations, and definitely all studies have some limitations. So the two types of limitations are either typically grouped as time or financially related constraints, or based on your interests, so externally and internal limitations. Let's take the external first. Because of time constraints, you might be able to see upfront that you will not be able to fulfill must have and should have requirements for your product, and you might want to purposely split it into two projects where you develop some part of the solution, which then can be used in a future project and be finished there. Another constraint, which is quite often in research, is the sample selection method, the sample size for statistical evaluations. So we always have to in some way limit the sample size. We can't go out and find out in high detail what 8 billion people think. Another financial constraint is that your university might already have some components in stock that they spend a lot of money on, and even though there are alternatives that are better maybe for your specific project, they might require you to use these specific components. As an alternative, you could also address this when doing the component choice, that you find out, okay, this is the optimal choice, and then just write one sentence, but the university requires me to use this component. So the other type of constraint is based on yourself or your group's interests. So you might on purpose want to reinvent the wheel to learn more about a specific topic that is of high interest to you. So in saying this, this might not be the optimal approach to solving the project, and you are aware of that, but you make this selection that you want to go down this path. Finally, there's also the opposite. So you might want to remove some things that you have less interest in doing. So for example, a programming language, you might not want to learn a new programming language in your thesis project. So you could, in your problem limitation, write that you will use this specific programming language. It's chosen up front and you will not consider any other languages. This might also mean that you are focusing on a specific platform, which would then be a further limitation of your problem. Okay, so I want to give you some examples, and I made 2 printouts that I would like to show you, each detailing both external and internal limitations that you might reuse in your project. As a starting point, I write the project is done with this and this many students having this higher workload and a budget of a certain amount. And for this reason, the project is subject to several limitations as detailed below. The product developed will not be waterproof. So it's very specific, and it's something, okay, we are limiting our project to focus on proof of concept, and thus waterproofness is not part of our focus right now. The empirical results reported herein are limited by a small sample size and require further investigation. Also, a very general, easy to use disclaimer to explain why you only asked 10 people, maybe even 10 of your friends. As I said earlier, also you could limit the programming language by saying, okay, this specific programming language will be used as the programming language and maybe even be used on a specific platform, as this is fitting for the prototype development and is well known by the group members. That's enough of a reasoning, at least for me. Another example is if a certain component has to be used, in this case, for example, a virtual reality headset. They're quite expensive, so this virtual reality headset from this manufacturer will be used as it is the preferred product by the university and already is purchased earlier and in stock. So these are just 4 examples that you can use that are given externally. Some internal examples. Due to personal interest in the topic, a custom platform is developed instead of buying a finished platform, even though it would be cheaper and less time consuming. So at least for me, this is clear indication, okay, this is a choice out of interest, and it is a university, you are here to learn, so this is fair enough, as long as you are aware that it's not how we do it in real life, but it's something you can do in the university, and that's okay. Because of the course goals might be another reason that instead of buying a finished platform of some kind, you want to develop a custom platform. There might be some learning goals that you need to achieve, and you can't achieve that if you just buy something that works out of the box, right? Another example, to save time, it has been decided up front together with the supervisor to use the commercially available platform instead of spending time on even considering building your own. Usually you should consider both building your own and buying something off the shelf. In this case, we limit that scope. In a previous project, a platform was developed, and this is required to be used as a foundation for our project. This is quite typical if you have a larger challenge that can be solved by just one thesis. It might be something that is the specific research topic of the researcher, and then he uses each new thesis to build upon the knowledge achieved by the previous students. So I hope you can use these examples in your project and that it will make your project limitations easier to write. Thank you.